Just exploded nationwide. Federal agents uncovered Suburban drug labs and an $85 million cartel pipeline hidden across Georgia.
Federal agencies in Georgia dismantled an $85 million fentanyl meth pipeline run by the Sinaloa Cartel and a Chinese money laundering network. Suburban homes in Gwinnett, Johns Creek, and Alpharetta were operating as secret drug labs. A TL airport was used to move precursor chemicals and cash. A multi-agency raid seized 12.4 tons of drugs, $31 million in cash, and arrested 123 suspects at 5:40 p.m. in Duluth, Georgia, a quiet shopping plaza, usually filled with families grabbing groceries, office workers picking up dinner, and teenagers stopping for snacks, unexpectedly turned into ground zero for one of the most significant federal crackdowns in Georgia's history. What appeared to be a completely routine Tuesday evening suddenly shifted as federal agents moved in to strike the first blow against a powerful hidden empire, an $85 million fentanyl and meth pipeline jointly operated by Mexico's Sinaloa Cartel, and a highly sophisticated Chinese underground banking network that had quietly embedded itself inside Georgia's calmest suburban communities. The operation began with an arrest that looked deceptively simple. 48-year-old Ha Mingchen, a man who seemed completely ordinary, was casually loading cases of bottled water into his silver SUV. For 10 long months, Homeland Security investigations tracked him relentlessly, monitoring his late-night interstate drives, watching him make small but suspicious cash handoffs, and documenting his repeated visits to multiple upscale residences in Gwinnett County and neighboring cities. Investigators knew he wasn't running errands or making casual visits. He wasn't a low-level courier. He was the essential link connecting cartel traffickers with a Chinese financial network capable of laundering millions without touching a single traditional bank. The takedown was executed with quiet precision. Agents approached him calmly, so calmly that most shoppers barely noticed anything unusual. But within seconds, additional units arrived, surrounding him from every angle. After performing a biometric scan to confirm his identity, they secured him in cuffs and escorted him to an unmarked vehicle. The entire scene ended in minutes. People walking to their cars remained unaware they had just witnessed the capture of a key player in a transnational criminal machine designed to poison communities while remaining invisible. When footage of the arrest began circulating online, social media users argued endlessly, insisting it must be an immigration arrest. Authorities quickly issued a clarification explaining that immigration had nothing to do with this case. What they had just exposed was the first visible link in a global pipeline connecting Mexican cartel chemists, Chinese precursor suppliers, suburban drug factories, and an international laundering system stretching from Norcross to Shanghai. But the arrest was only the beginning. Before the public even finished debating the video, federal tactical teams were already raiding the next tier of the organization. What they found inside the million-dollar suburban homes shocked even the most experienced DEA veterans. Mingchen's repeated stops had not been at sketchy warehouses or remote industrial zones. They were at pristine luxury homes in Johns Creek, Alpharetta, and elite Gwinnett communities. Places known for strict homeowners associations, award-winning schools, and perfectly manicured lawns. From the outside, these houses looked like any other peaceful Georgia residence. But inside, they were high-capacity synthetic drug factories. Living rooms had been cleared of furniture and replaced with stainless steel chemical workstations, industrial mixers, digital scales, and heat-resistant flooring. Bedrooms contained racks filled with drying chemical powders instead of beds. Basements were wrapped in thick insulation and reflective foil to contain heat and noise, with hidden ventilation pipes running behind walls. What neighbors assumed were normal air conditioners humming late into the night were actually fentanyl production rigs operating nonstop. In one Johns Creek home, agents found such a massive quantity of raw fentanyl that it could theoretically kill the entire population of Georgia several times. The labs were surprisingly advanced, built with precise engineering, efficient designs, and professional-level safety setups. This was not the work of amateurs. It was the work of a carefully constructed production network designed to blend seamlessly into wealthy, unsuspecting neighborhoods. Documents seized from these locations revealed something much larger. A statewide network stretching from Atlanta to Augusta, from Savannah to the Tennessee border, with multiple ghost houses rented under false identities. Some of these houses were used to store precursor chemicals. Others manufactured counterfeit pills. Others functioned as packaging centers or cash counting sites. Every house played a role, and every role helped maintain a drug empire disguised as normal suburban life. Realizing the scale of the threat, federal agencies initiated an unprecedented response. At exactly 3:14 a.m. on September 18, the largest synchronized multi-agency surge in Georgia's history began. Teams from the DEA, FBI, ICE, GBI, and ATF launched coordinated raids on nearly 140 cartel-linked locations across the state. In Gwinnett County, armored trucks rolled silently through cul-de-sacs. Tactical teams moved with practiced precision. Flashbangs erupted against brick walls, illuminating entire neighborhoods in pulses of white light. Inside one residence, panicked drug cooks attempted to dump chemical mixtures out a back window before being forced to the ground by federal agents. In Monroe, agents stormed a fortified stash house protected by reinforced steel doors and homemade diversion devices. Thick chemical fumes leaked into hallways as the suspects made desperate attempts to destroy evidence. Near Augusta, ICE units intercepted a 4-vehicle convoy trying to flee the state. Spike strips shredded the convoy's tires, helicopters circled overhead, and panicked couriers threw duffel bags filled with cartel cash onto the road. One driver attempted a dangerous breakout maneuver, but spun violently into the median after a pit intervention. Savannah saw one of the most dangerous confrontations of the entire surge. 28 armed suspects barricaded themselves inside a Riverside warehouse and opened fire on approaching officers. The ensuing firefight lasted 7 chaotic minutes before HSI tactical teams breached the rear entrance and subdued the group. By September 24th, Georgia had witnessed one of the largest synthetic drug takedowns in U.S. history. Investigators had arrested more than 120 suspects. They had seized more than 12 tons of illegal narcotics. They had recovered over 1 million counterfeit pills. They had confiscated more than 800 firearms. They had frozen $31 million of cartel cash, and they had dismantled a network of forged identities and shell company documents built to sustain the criminal operation. Yet even these astonishing numbers represented only one part of a much larger system. As agents dug deeper, they uncovered a disturbing truth. The criminal pipeline was not just hiding in suburban homes. It had infiltrated Georgia's most important transportation hub, Atlanta's Hartsfield-Jackson International Airport. The world's busiest airport had unknowingly become a gateway for cartel operations. Suspicious cargo shipments began appearing in late 2023. They were labeled as innocuous items, cleaning solutions, textile dyes, and industrial solvents. But chemical analysis revealed the truth. These shipments contained high-purity precursor chemicals essential to manufacturing fentanyl and meth. With thousands of cargo pallets moving through ATL every day, the cartel blended effortlessly into the chaos. They exploited shift changes, understaffed customs lanes, and blind spots in cargo surveillance. Once shipments cleared customs, they were quietly moved into the suburbs using unmarked trucks. But imports were only one side of the operation. The cartel used Atlanta's airport as a direct export route to send high-purity meth to overseas markets like Australia, New Zealand, Japan, and Singapore. These international markets offered astronomical profits. A batch of meth worth $700 in Atlanta could sell for over $200,000 in Sydney. To maintain the flow, the cartel recruited couriers from Atlanta clubs and nightlife scenes, tempting them with promises of $150,000 per international run. Many accepted without understanding the full scale of the criminal network they were aiding. Behind all this was the financial engine, the hidden machine that kept the operation alive. Investigators uncovered a complex money laundering network that touched nearly every corner of Georgia's business landscape. A trucking company in Norcross was found storing $14 million in cartel cash inside boxes labeled for printer toner. Multiple nail salons and massage spas across Duluth, Chamblee, and Midtown were quietly cycling fake revenue to disguise cartel deposits. Karaoke bars in Chamblee were using token-based digital credit systems to transfer funds to Hong Kong and Macau, where they were mirrored into Mexico without passing through any official bank. A logistics warehouse in Tucker had processed more than 50 suspicious cargo containers within 2 years. with some containers hiding vacuum-sealed US dollars inside chemical drums. Agents estimated that in just 24 months, more than $410 million had been laundered through Georgia's economic systems. More troubling still, the investigation revealed that some shell companies involved in the laundering process bore authorization signatures from Georgia officials, names that remain sealed under federal protection pending formal charges. But beyond arrests and financial seizures, Georgia was left to face the human cost. Communities like Duluth, Norcross, and Gwinnett found themselves living with a sense of quiet fear. Businesses began locking their doors hours earlier, not because criminals were targeting them directly, but because residents were terrified of unknowingly interacting with criminal fronts. Teenagers as young as 14 had been lured into courier roles after being enticed by social media posts flaunting cash stacks, luxury cars, and promises of fast money. Some teenagers were caught in high-speed chase incidents. Others overdosed on counterfeit pills manufactured in the Suburban death labs. Overdose deaths in the state soared past 2,900 in the span of a single year. School counselors reported rising anxiety among students. Funeral homes saw a noticeable increase in teenage services. Once vibrant neighborhoods became strangely quiet. Parents monitored their children with intense vigilance. Homeowners sold their properties out of fear, and entire communities felt the shift. Georgia realized it had uncovered more than a drug network. It had uncovered a silent invasion woven into the fabric of daily life. When the dust finally settled, the deeper message became clear. This was not simply a drug bust, it was a warning. Today's most dangerous threats do not always arrive with obvious violence. Sometimes they move quietly inside elegant homes, through trusted local businesses, through busy international airports, and behind the faces of people who appear completely ordinary. The Sinaloa Cartel did not invade Georgia with open warfare. They invaded through camouflage, through silence, through normalcy, through invisibility. In North Carolina, a shocking multi-campus federal raid has exposed one of the largest student-run drug trafficking networks in U.S. history. Federal agents launched Operation Clean Slate at exactly 4:12 a.m., targeting universities including Duke, UNCC Chapel Hill, and Appalachian State. What appeared to be ordinary college life, dorm rooms, fraternities, study groups, was secretly being used as a nationwide distribution pipeline for cocaine, fentanyl, meth, LSD, and illegal pills. More than $1.5 million in narcotics were tracked across campuses, and investigators traced over $6.7 million in student-controlled transactions. In a massive coordinated raid, the FBI and DEA arrested over 200 students, many of them fraternity members and even top-performing students, all accused of trafficking, laundering, and supplying dangerous drugs across multiple states. Officials say this operation wasn't a small party-level bust. It was a full criminal enterprise operating inside American colleges. America always believed that its college campuses were places of ideas, ambition, and opportunity, not crime. Parents sent their children to universities hoping they would build futures, not destroy them. But at exactly 4:12 a.m., that illusion shattered. Before the sun rose, dozens of campuses across the United States were surrounded by unmarked federal vehicles, tactical teams in bulletproof gear, and drone units scanning rooftops. The operation was fast, precise, and overwhelming. Students were pulled from dorms in pajamas, professors watched from office windows, and campus police were ordered to stand down as federal agents took control. Overnight, the country realized that what looked like normal student life had been hiding one of the most complex drug trafficking networks in modern American history. The investigation didn't begin with a big cartel intel drop or a high-level informant. It started quietly, almost invisibly, with a freshman overdose at a small Midwestern university. He wasn't connected to gangs, didn't have a criminal record, and wasn't known as a drug user. His death was supposed to be a tragic but isolated event, until lab reports revealed something shocking. The fentanyl found in his system matched the chemical profile of batches coming from advanced Mexican super labs operated by cartel chemists. This level of purity was rarely seen in small-town cases. Federal analysts flagged the signature and compared it with recent overdose reports in other states. Within weeks, patterns emerged. Same chemical fingerprint, Same distribution style, same packaging, completely different campuses. And then investigators realized the truth. Someone had built a cross-country distribution chain using students as runners, suppliers, financiers, and transporters. But these weren't stereotypical criminals. They blended into campus culture flawlessly. They attended lectures, went to football games, asked questions in class, worked part-time jobs, and appeared harmless. Behind the scenes, however, they were part of a hidden economy, moving cocaine, meth, counterfeit pills, and high-grade fentanyl with frightening efficiency. When cyber analysts hacked into encrypted group chats used by members of the ring, the scale of the network became undeniable. The students used code language embedded into regular conversations. Words like study package, library drop, project partner, and final assignment all had hidden meanings that the average person would never notice. A simple message like, "Meet me before class at the library," was actually a schedule for a drug exchange. A photo of a backpack on a chair meant a pickup was ready. Their communication system was intentionally designed to blend with student routines so perfectly that no one, not even close friends, suspected anything. As the FBI and DEA dug deeper, they discovered the network wasn't operating from one university. It stretched across 14 states, connecting students from campuses such as Duke, UNC Chapel Hill, Appalachian State, Arizona State, Penn State, Michigan State, and several community colleges. Every campus had different responsibilities. Some were distribution hubs, others were storage points. A few were responsible for recruiting new members. Mostly students who needed money, felt pressured, or believed they were joining a side hustle that wouldn't hurt anyone. The financial system behind the network shocked investigators even more than the drugs themselves. When agents traced the money trail, the numbers didn't add up at first. Small, harmless-looking student payments, $20 here, $50 there, $100 from another campus, were being funneled into crypto wallets that were anything but harmless. Over $6.7 million moved silently through digital accounts controlled by club treasurers, student organization presidents, and even a few part-time tutors who moonlighted as financial handlers. These weren't random transfers. They were structured, timed, and masked under legitimate university activities. A single club meeting could hide dozens of micro-payments routed through crypto mixers, making the transactions nearly impossible to track without federal decryption tools. One engineering student in Texas, described by his professors as a genius with algorithms, created custom software that automatically broke large cartel payments into hundreds of tiny transactions spread across multiple wallets. Each payment was so small and so routine-looking that no bank system ever flagged it. Investigators later discovered that this student had been selling his code to other members across states, turning financial laundering into a subscription service. Meanwhile, in California, a so-called wellness club used university mental health grants to cover shipping costs that were secretly tied to cartel accounts. Their public events, yoga sessions, meditation circles, nutrition workshops were nothing more than a mask for their underground financial routes. On the East Coast, a fraternity used a fake textbook exchange program as its cover. Students would order books, but instead of receiving shipments of literature, they received padded packages filled with illicit pills. Payment processors linked to the fraternity disguised the money as donations for academic support. By the time this information reached federal analysts, it became clear that this wasn't a sloppy college scam. It was a fully engineered financial ecosystem designed to be invisible. Federal agents quickly realized they weren't dealing with amateurs. The network was decentralized, highly organized, and powered by students who understood cybersecurity, finance, logistics, and psychological manipulation. They weren't being exploited by a cartel. They were building their own cartel-like structure inside the American education system. Each campus acted like a branch office with distributed responsibility. Some handled storage, others transportation, while the most tech-savvy campuses acted as headquarters for encryption, routing, and communication. When officials gathered for a classified briefing, the data on the board was so alarming that the room fell silent. The sheer sophistication of the operation forced leadership to authorize Operation Clean Slate with emergency powers. For months, undercover agents lived double lives. They posed as freshmen struggling to fit in, joined student clubs, attended campus events, and even went to weekend parties under the pretense of blending in. Hidden microphones captured deals happening feet away from campus security. Agents mapped out drop points, dorm room safe houses, fraternity basements converted into pill labs, and library storage rooms used as counting stations. Surveillance teams spread across the nation. They monitored parking garages where handoffs took place between students carrying backpacks. They hid in maintenance tunnels beneath campuses listening to coded messages being exchanged. They installed disguised drone cameras inside smart lampposts to track movements across courtyards. By the time the network was fully mapped, federal officials knew they had one shot to strike before students scattered or wiped their digital footprints. When the green light finally came, the nationwide takedown had to happen with absolute precision. No warnings, no leaks, no second chances. At 4:12 a.m., while most students slept, the operation unfolded. Entire campuses lit up with flashing police lights. Tactical teams breached dormitory doors in synchronized waves as helicopters hovered above academic quads. Students woke in confusion, some grabbing their phones and filming what they called the craziest night on campus ever, completely unaware of the criminal empire operating hours away from their rooms. At one university, agents stormed a chemistry lab and seized equipment students were using to manufacture counterfeit Adderall pills for finals week distribution. At another, a hidden storage locker was discovered behind a gym wall, filled with meth disguised as sports supplements and protein powder containers. But what stunned the country most were the mugshots released the next day. These weren't gang members or seasoned criminals. They were honor students, scholarship recipients, athletes with trophies, business majors with internships, and engineering students with corporate job offers pending. Some were student body leaders. Some were members of academic honor societies. One was an orientation ambassador who greeted new families during campus tours. Out of the hundreds detained, 214 students were arrested in the first wave, and federal documents indicated that over 600 more had indirect involvement, making it one of the largest student-run criminal enterprises in U.S. history. Parents were furious. They demanded answers from university administrations that claimed they had no idea such a network existed. Professors were stunned to learn that students who turned in early assignments and participated in class discussions were simultaneously coordinating interstate drug shipments after hours. Campus officials scrambled to defend themselves, arguing that the network was specifically designed to hide in plain sight and exploit the trust inherent in academic environments. Federal officials repeatedly emphasized that Operation Clean Slate was not launched to shame universities, but to protect them. They warned that criminal organizations worldwide were now targeting college students because of their technological skills, access to funding, and flexible identities. Students were no longer just vulnerable. They were valuable assets for criminal expansion. In the days following the raids, digital forensics teams uncovered even more disturbing evidence. Plans to expand the operation were already in motion. There were encrypted notes about recruiting student athletes for transporting products across states, leveraging computer science majors to strengthen encryption, and using business majors to design laundering systems that mimicked legitimate startup models. It wasn't just a drug ring, it was an evolving hybrid criminal enterprise exploiting young people's intelligence and ambition. As universities struggled to rebuild trust and families tried to understand how such a network could grow undetected, one truth became impossible to ignore. America's campuses were no longer isolated, protected bubbles. They were now potential battlegrounds for financial corruption, technological exploitation, and the dark lure of fast, easy money.